But there is a bigger picture here.
Tonight, week one of the inquest into the 2022 James Smith mass stabbings wraps up.
They'll be able to be economically sustainable and in employment that they want to be in.
Plus, more funding for training for women.
Has been the vision of Nunavut for many decades.
And a sit-down interview with Nunavut Premier on the signing of the devolution agreement. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. The first week of the inquest into the September 4th, 2022 mass stabbing on the James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan has wrapped up. Band member Miles Sanderson killed 11 people that day, including his brother, and 17 others were injured. Our Saskatchewan video journalist Rachel May has been at the inquest in Melfort all week.
The day started with a drumming circle inside the Carrie Vicker Centre, just outside of the hall the inquest is being held in. Earlier this week, the inquest heard that brothers Damien and Miles Sanderson went to the house of Martin Moose on the James Smith Reserve. It was there that the first of many attacks happened that morning. Miles attacked Moose and Damien broke up the fight. Martin called 911 and despite his injuries survived. Miles killed Damien outside. Sky Sanderson, wife of Damien Sanderson, testified late into the evening yesterday. She recalled being afraid of Miles. She said at an event 2 weeks before the attacks, Damien said he was afraid of his brother, that he thought his brother was the devil. Early today, Mandy Meyer of RCMP Communications detailed the process behind emergency broadcast alerts being sent out across Saskatchewan. She explained that communications strategists on September 4th, 2022 received the call to issue an alert shortly before 6:30 a.m. The first alert went out at 7:12 a.m. During lunch break, Deborah Burns, one of the family members, was standing, and daughter of Earl Burns, who was killed in the attacks, said they're putting the entire blame on Miles when he was just one part of the problem.
But there is a bigger picture here. The drugs, that wasn't questioned. Where did it come from? Are they further investigating that part?
The inquest continues next week with testimony from members of the Provincial Department of Health and Justice. Much of the testimony this week was centered on what the RCMP was doing the morning of the attacks. Rachel May, APTN National News, Melfort, Saskatchewan.
A nonprofit group in Kenora, Ontario is resorting to a sacred fire to keep the unhoused population warm during these extreme cold temperatures. As Tamara Pimentel reports, shelters are limited and many of the homeless have nowhere to go.
A sacred fire has taken over this parking lot in Kenora. The not-for-profit group Kenora Moving Forward created the makeshift warming space for the city's unhoused population. Cody Joseph is one of the firekeepers.
Without this fire, nobody would have a place to stay warm. It's a struggle for the homeless people. It's a struggle.
There is one overnight emergency shelter in Kenora. It has 44 beds, but according to the Canadian Observatory on Homelessness, roughly 200 here are unhoused. And the Fellowship Centre is only open during daytime hours. Ilana Boatwell and Chrissy Isaac with Kenora Moving Forward say the sacred fire will be here for 24 hours a day for 5 days.
It was something that was urgent, that's needed for the community here. If something happens in the city, the people that are on the streets are the ones that get blamed for something right away. And I figured, a fire would be a way of bringing people together in a good, respectful manner.
It's a chance for the wider community to come, sit by the fireside, listen to what people's experiences are.
The group says another 30-bed transitional housing center and public washroom is expected to be open soon. They are desperately needed during these minus 30 temperatures. The city of Kenora has not yet responded to our request for comment before airtime. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We want to hear what you think about this story or any other story you see here tonight. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, previously known as Twitter. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Indigenous women in northeastern Ontario will soon have access to more support and training. This week, the province of Ontario announced $6.9 million over 3 years under its Investing in Women's Futures program. A Native women's organization, Keepers of the Circle, is one of the 10 sites to share that investment. The funding will help expand training opportunities for Indigenous women in areas like construction, mining, renewable energy, and entrepreneurship skills. Keepers of the Circle will receive $325,000 over 3 years. According to Bertha Cormier, it will also help reduce barriers like access to childcare and internet connectivity.
By being able to provide those supports and reduce those barriers that our women are facing, they're going to be able to, join that workforce and be part of the whole, they'll be able to be economically sustainable and in employment that they want to be in.
The Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation held an official opening of their new school, the Chief Aranaji School, and it will be for grades 5 to 12. It is named in honor of Chief Oranaji, who signed an adhesion to Treaty 6 in 1877 on behalf of the Nakota people. The almost $21 million school doubles as a community center with a commercial kitchen, an outdoor ice rink with a playground, and a ceremonial space. Their experience with issues with outside contractors inspired the nation to create Hill Plain Construction Services, and now will build future developments themselves.
So now when we build we're going to build anything, we use our own construction management. We have engineers with over 100 years of experience combined who are working there and managing our new project. So it's pretty exciting what the school has provided so far.
We need to step aside for a short break. Coming up, a sit-down interview with Nunavut's premier following yesterday's devolution signing with the feds.
But I think there's a great opportunity for us to ramp up the training available for Inuit.
Welcome back to APTN National News. With the signing of the new devolution agreement, Nunavut Inuit are about to get a greater say in how the territory's lands are managed. Trevor Wright brings us this from Akeeagok.
This week, Nunavut celebrated the signing of its devolution agreement, what's being called the largest land transfer in Canadian history. The agreement hands over or devolves the administration of Nunavut's land and resources from the federal government to the Nunavut government, says Prime Minister Justin Trudeau from the podium.
Today marks the finalization of an agreement that will see the largest land transfer in the history of Canada. 2 million square kilometers of land and waters will be transferred from the Government of Canada to the Government of Nunavut.
This means that Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, or NTI, the legal representative of Nunavut Inuit, is about to get a greater say in how the territory's land is managed, according to Group President Akeeagok.
We're very pleased that there's a commitment for a joint management committee. It will be set up as a cooperation committee between the Government of Nunavut and Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, and I think that will be a space where senior officials from Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated and the regional Inuit associations will be able to meet with senior officials with the Government of Nunavut to talk about and work through any concerns or work that's required in terms of legislation or policy development in relation to land management.
In Inuktitut, Nunavut means our land. And with additional commitments from the territorial government to create a more representative workforce, Kotiuk says there's an opportunity to bring more Inuit into actually managing the land itself.
But I think there's a great opportunity for us to ramp up the training available for Inuit to take part in land, so that they're in a position to take on some of those responsibilities in terms of land administration.
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Akeeagok.
And here is Nunavut Premier PJ Akeeagok in Akeeagok with APTN's Trevor Wright with more on yesterday's devolution signing.
According to Nunavut Premier PJ Akeeagok, this week's devolution journey started with the fight to make Nunavut a territory.
It has been the vision of Nunavut for many decades. It's a formal devolution started then, and for us to be able to continue, that has been a top priority. Every bilateral meeting I've had with the Prime Minister, we've identified devolution being a critical component for us to conclude, because it will allow us to start taking on these responsibilities and for us to reap the benefits of the incredible wealth we have in the territory with the non-renewable, and for us to really start building the foundations of our economy.
Akeeagok says this devolution builds upon learned experiences from past devolution agreements, and says he's confident the government will be ready when the implementation period begins this April and ends 3 years after.
Of learning from previous experiences and the amount of work that's required to devolve these responsibilities is something we looked at. So I'm confident with the 3 years that we'll be able to really put work into drafting legislation and then going through the House here and ensuring that we have the necessary strategies in place and the investments rolled out to ensure that come April 1, 2027 that we're ready.
The federal government will be transferring many assets during devolution. The most critical, the Premier says, is the people.
There's a lot of work before us with legislation drafting. We'll have to look at transferring the different assets, whether it's the office building spaces, and looking at the assets of really the most important pieces of people, the employees that will help us manage the resources and do the workload in terms of the responsibility of taking devolution on.
Once that capacity is built, he says, the territory can better take control of its natural resources.
It will allow us to be able to start preparing of what we could do with our resources that are here. We're very fortunate. We currently have 4 existing mines where we see incredible employment opportunities, incredible contracting opportunities that that come with it. But we're also very open on finding that balanced approach to what economies we want to see. There's a conservation economy that we've seen in some areas. So it's really finding that balance that's going to be critical moving forward. But part of that will obviously be the importance of looking at what we could do with the royalties that will now come to the government of Nunavut.
Ensuring Inuit are given opportunities was an important topic throughout the devolution negotiations for NTI and the Premier. He says they believe they have a good foundation.
Human resources really is what I said is the most important asset we're talking about as we're devolving, taking on this very important responsibility. And through that process, we've been working very closely throughout the negotiations with our partners, with the federal government, as well as Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated. And through that, we've identified a comprehensive strategy that really targets what we could do to enhance Inuit employment as we're taking on this responsibility from the federal government.
Premier Akeeagok said this moment wouldn't be possible without the work of past premiers.
I feel very honored and humbled to just look back at the incredible leadership, the former premiers who really started pushing, and I look at former Premier Paul O'Quella, Eva Aria, Peter Taptuna, Pa Huasa, Joe Savikata, and the incredible advancements they made for us to realize this moment. But I really feel that we've built upon the trajectory that those leaders really brought us here. But like in any negotiations, there's always differences, and really it's one where all three partners, I really think, pushed extremely hard to ensure it's a win-win-win scenario. When Nunavut succeeds, Canada succeeds.
While Nunavut still faces many challenges, the largest being its housing crisis, Premier Akeeagok is confident about the future ahead.
Listen, if we walked away from the challenges, Nunavut wouldn't be here. And I think that strong foundation of the patience of Nunavut, of patience of Inuit, and really that strong vision that came from the leaders that we were very fortunate to have, we wouldn't be here today. So with that, I think I have full confidence moving forward that we will be able to continue to progress Nunavut to a brighter future.
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
We need to take one more quick break. Still to come, a look at the rising presence of Indigenous women in politics. Plus, a Métis restaurant is making a comeback after closing during the pandemic.
What I know about Elsie Bear is that she would open up her home for Christmas meals for the needy at Christmas time.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. A beautiful sunset was sent to us by Gina George. George took this picture at Takla Landing in British Columbia. Thanks for sharing that with us, Gina. If you have a picture to share, be sure to email that photo to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting off on the east coast, -4 and snow in Fredericton, 0 degrees in Charlottetown. Nain, sunshine, -14, La Grande River, -12. Val-d'Or, snowy and -14, Sept-Îles, -6. Sarnia, snowy and -8, North Bay, -13. Kapuskasing, snowy and -15, sunshine and -11 for Thunder Bay. God's Lake, -14 there, Churchill, sunshine and -16. Brandon, -14 there, snowy and -14 in Dauphin. Swift Current, -6, north of Battleford, snowy and -16. Stony Rapids, snowy, -19 there, Buffalo Narrows, -17. Sunshine and -27 for High Level, Fort McMurray, -20. Calgary, -7 and sunshine, Edmonton, -13. Quesnel, snowy, -8, Bella Coola, +1. Prince George, flurries and -8 degrees, Prince Rupert, +3. Watson Lake, -22 there, Old Crow, sunshine and -36. Wrigley, snowy and -18, Wati, -23. Colville Lake, -27 there, Tuktoyaktuk, snowy and -22. Baker Lake, snowy, -21 there, Nauyet, snowy and -30. Clyde River, -27, Arctic Bay, -24. There's a rising presence of Indigenous women in politics. Last month, the Assembly of First Nations elected a woman to represent them as the national chief. Some believe that the tide is changing with an increasing number of women being voted in as chiefs of their communities. A story by Shushan Bacon, voiced by Maricela Amador.
And it's my honor and my great privilege to introduce our next national chief, Cindy Woodhouse Nipanak. Hi, hi.
Once again, the Assembly of First Nations elected a woman, Cindy Woodhouse. She almost forgot to thank someone during her first speech.
My husband joined me today and yesterday and this week, and I want to thank him. He's a strong educator, and he always makes sure that these guys are organized from day to day.
The Mohawk Council of Kahnawake Grand Chief Kasnahawe Sky Deer was present during the Assembly of First Nations election. She is among the growing number of women who have been elected into leadership positions.
I mean, I've always heard of some discrimination and some bias. I mean, maybe there's some old mentalities about women's role is about, the family and just staying at home.
There are approximately 630 First Nation communities in Canada. During the last election, 461 chiefs voted. And according to the Assembly of First Nations, 177 were female chiefs.
I've heard from some men that they feel that women have a different approach to the position and the role, and that they would like to see more. So maybe it's a change in attitude as well from men who hold these positions for such a long time to welcome more women leadership to the tables, and obviously the communities, right? It's the communities that support and vote us in.
The Grand Chief of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation Tribal Council, Savannah McGregor, explains that the place of women is important to the Assembly. She believes that a good representation of the nations means diversity, including two-spirited people.
Comme chair du National Caucus de Women Leaders, on crée un espace où on peut avoir des sessions virtuelles avec des key speakers et avoir un espace pour avoir le mentorat.
For those dreaming of a career in politics, Grand Chief McGregor says, it's not only about luck, but
la détermination, la volonté, la curiosité et l'amour.
Kasanahawe Sky Deer believes that the Creator blessed everyone with a gift. And if the chance to assume a leadership role in your community arises, one should seize the opportunity.
There will be a time, I think, where you'll see more.
A story by Shushan Bacon, read by Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To Winnipeg now, a restaurant named after a Métis advocate has reopened their doors after a long absence due to the pandemic. Here's Sav Jonesa with more.
Tucked away in the basement of the Manitoba Métis Federation headquarters in Winnipeg is a little slice of Métis culinary heaven. Elsie Bear's Kitchen is the place to go for fried bologna sandwiches and other cultural dishes.
We do a lot of traditional Métis food. We do a lot of stew and bannock and wild rice and that sort of thing.
General Manager Robert Conway has been running the restaurant with his wife for the past 6 years. It's been in the family for almost 20. Elsie Bear's Kitchen recently reopened after being shut down by the pandemic. Conway says they kept busy during that time by helping others.
During COVID, we were providing sandwiches for a lot of the homeless shelters around the city. They weren't able to get volunteers in, so we were providing sandwiches daily for them for the first little while when they shut down.
That community involvement is in tune with the work of the restaurant's namesake, Elsie Bear. She was known for her generosity and dedication to her community.
What I know about Elsie Bear is that she would open up her home for Christmas meals for the needy at Christmas time. And eventually she moved that to the Friendship Center, where she was serving about 300 people every Christmas for Christmas dinner. So she was a pillar of the community that helped out those less fortunate. So.
The restaurant was named in honor of Bear's decades of advocacy only a few years before she passed away in 2002 at the age of 80. Her spirit lives on through a plaque that watches over Elsie Bear's Kitchen. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
That's all the time we have for your Friday news. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly, and from all of us here at APTN National News, Marcy, Miigwech, and thank you for being with us. We leave you tonight with some visuals from yesterday's devolution ceremony in Akeeagok. Have a great night.